Department of Energy, which is a no use at all.
Yes, I believe the Department of Energy and Department of Education both came into existence in the early 70s. Is that about right? And the Department of Energy was intended to eliminate our dependency on foreign oil. I think it's been a miserable failure. Now, on that point, we need to continue exploration of our own natural resources here in the United States, and I believe we have ample resources to become energy independent and self-reliant. Yes?
If we take entitlements out of it, I think we can cut about 50% of what's left and still not get there. Meaning the entitlements are going to have to be dealt with if we're ever going to get the balance.
That's correct.
So my question is what would be your solutions on those entitlements?
So entitlements like Social Security, like Medicare, like Medicaid, etc.
And now ObamaCare.
And ObamaCare. Yes. I'm a businessman. I look at numbers and I figure out how to make the numbers work. And so at some point we have to deal with the gap. But let's keep the point of reference correct. Today, in Social Security, the dollars that are being sent out, 95% of that is being covered by the dollars coming in. 95%, and that's been consistent for a long time. Okay, so there's a 5% gap in current state of affairs. Let's go back to FUD. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. The government are masters at causing fear, uncertainty, and doubt about the collapse of our Social Security system, about welfare or health care and rationing, about a myriad of things. That is used as a tool to get us to do something that they want us to do. So I need to spend more time on it, but you're going to have to deal with things like the tax rate. You're going to have to deal with things like age. You have to deal with the assumptions, which is how long are we going to live. But it also includes things like how many people are coming into the country from immigration that's legal and how large is the population base. There is a huge bucket full of assumptions built into those statements that it can't sustain itself and it won't sustain itself and all kinds of things. So I have no issues with getting to a number that will make it work, and if it involves cutting entitlements, I'm okay with that. I think work is part of the problem, is part of the solution. We have penalties today on our senior citizens that say if you earn too much, all of a sudden you get penalized by working too much. I think that's fundamentally wrong. We have a lot of people in this country that want to continue to work to provide for themselves, and yet they're forced by law to retire at a certain age, to withdraw a certain amount of money, or to be restricted on what they can receive. It's completely convoluted. So I don't know if that answers that one specifically. Okay. Yes, next question. Yes, sir.
What do you think about term limits as a means of eliminating or controlling corruption in government?
Term limits as a means of controlling corruption. I don't think term limits controls corruption in any sense of the word. You have to have people of good moral character and sound judgment in order to have that occur. Obama's been in there for 2 years. Term limits would not solve that issue in his view of what government should do. Do we need to get rid of career politicians? Yes. I'm of the opinion that we need people that are willing to go there and retire and go home and get a job. We don't have those kinds of people today. So we as a citizenry must vote them out. That's the way the Constitution was constructed. If we're not willing to do that, then we no longer have an informed electorate, we no longer have an involved electorate, and the Constitution is incapable of governing that type of people. So if we want to go to this default position of using law to force people out of office, then we've already admitted that we don't really care what happens. We want somebody else to take care of the problem for us. So I understand why it comes up. I don't think it's the right answer. Yes, sir.
Where do you stand on the lifetime appointment of our Supreme Court?
Where do I stand on the lifetime appointment of Supreme Court justices? Don't know. I haven't thought through that one yet. Okay, that's a good question.
It is part of the Constitution.
Understand that.
They didn't know what you said.
Understand that. Yes. Another question? Yes, sir.
What are your own priorities of issues to tackle once you get there?
Well, let's go back to my founding position, the Constitution and limited government, I'm not trying to go do things that are new to bring about new legislation. My priority is to find a body of people that are willing to hold the correct principle to block, to cut expenses, to block new programs, to block new legislation. I don't see any reason to create new government, new regulations at all. We have too much now, and it's going to take decades to get rid of it. So that's my priority, is to block new expenses and to get our deficit spending under control. We're upside down badly. Yes, sir.
Do you already have a group of people that you think are like-minded that you would go to specifically?
I've thought of a couple. Jim DeMint, I think I've heard a lot of good things about him. Michelle up in Minnesota.
Bachman.
Bachman, thank you.
She's in the-
I think there's some good opportunity there. Beyond those two, I haven't looked at them individually. To me, that's a mid-November decision rather than a now decision. It doesn't matter. I have to be voted in by the people of Arizona before that becomes a place where I need to spend a lot of effort.
And there's going to be a lot
That's
of...
why I've prioritized it that way. Yes, ma'am.
Can you see the value of, I don't know how to phrase this question, rather than looking at the gay rights issue, the value of allowing organizations to establish their criteria for membership, as opposed to just, it's kind of reshifting the gay rights issue.
I'm not sure how that relates to an association or what the question is. I'm happy to address gay rights and what that means as it relates to law and things.
I'm sorry, I'm having a challenge trying to form the question, but so that, let's say, religious organizations, a church can establish their criteria for membership. And prior till now, it's been pretty free and open, but the government is looking in or actually involved in making it so that an individual church cannot restrict membership.
Yes, understand that. So what that points to is the convoluted perspective that our government has on religion and state. The Constitution was intended to limit the federal government. It was not intended to dictate to the people or to the states what kinds of religious associations or organizations that they adhere to. Right? So the federal government has an obligation to protect freedom of religion within the states. So those associations that you've just identified, people should be able to congregate and worship who, how, or what they may, based on common values, and the federal government, according to the Constitution, should protect that liberty and that freedom of worship. The federal government is way off base, in my view, of what the Constitution was intended to do when they start to impose things like you can't pray in public, you can't hold prayer or worship on public grounds, you have to allow certain types of individuals into your association. To me, that is completely flip-flop from what it was intended to do.
So how can we stop that?
Well, that's where we have to have different representation in Washington. I firmly believe that until we as a people are willing to throw out the people that are there now, we will continue to have what we have, which is further encroachment, further regulation, and a further loss of what's right and wrong. So it starts with us. I know it sounds overly simplified, but I believe that's the right answer. Until we as a body of people are willing to get rid of the people that are there now, we're really not standing up for what we believe is right and what the Constitution enables us to do. Okay. Let me be respectful of time.
I just want to say you're right on that it starts with us. I'm reading The Making of America right now. It sounds like you've read it or something similar.
I haven't read it. I've pondered much on the Constitution and what it means.
Thomas Jefferson said that it's the people that if things go bad, we don't overthrow the government, we just educate the people.
Yes.
And let them fix things.
And that's the same issue with term limits. You know, we need to have the Constitution protect us, and we need to hold to that. So let me conclude, because I've gone over, and I appreciate your generous, being very generous with your time. So I'm asking you to write my name on the ballot. I'm asking you to vote for correct principles. Vote for the best candidate. Go take a look at everything that's on my website. Call me on my phone. Ask me questions. I'm happy to answer any question that you have. And then vote your conscience. It's my contention that I will serve Arizona very, very well and hold to constitutional principles. If that's what you want, then vote for me. If you have the means and the ability to make a donation, I have envelopes on the table. In order to win a campaign, I have to get into the broader media. We're running radio, we're looking at starting to run television. All of that costs money. And we're running an all-volunteer campaign. There are no paid staff members. It's based on people's commitment of wanting to change what's happening, wanting to send somebody to Washington that will represent the people of Arizona. So, thank you very much. Appreciate it.